On my main channel, I've always played Bloons Tower Defense, but today, I want to find out what exactly will be discovered by scrolling all the way to the bottom of this list, straight past the games with mixed reviews, into the mostly negative and very negative category of tower defense. And here at the very bottom, we find a game called Citadels, which has a surprisingly high number of reviews, considering most of the games down here will have like 10 or 20 max. So I guess at one point there actually was like a small community that was anticipating this game and ended up being quite disappointed. And if we take a look at the top review, which has more support than the game itself, it becomes pretty clear what happened. But I just gotta say, I absolutely love the way they started this review off, saying, have you been looking for a new real-time strategy game lately to scratch that strategy itch you've been having? Well, look elsewhere, because Citadels is a dreadful and incomplete mess. And I mean, that makes sense, because apparently a second development studio had to be hired to add additional functionality to the game. And look, I'm not saying I could do better. I mean, I'd be lucky to code a game on Scratch, but obviously from the reviews, this game is simply not what people were hoping for. And when I checked out the gameplay, I got to see quite a lot of it. Hello? Okay, it's kind of weird, but I guess I'll tell them. So that was the Secret Service calling to say that if you haven't liked and subscribed, they're going to order 50 pizzas with anchovies and mushrooms on them to your house. So you better do that. I mean, this is not me talking, guys. And with that out of the way, I can get back to what I was saying, which is that when I checked out the gameplay, I got to see a lot of this guy's face, but eventually, I also realized that Citadels isn't really quite a tower defense game either, because it's more about building your own troops and using those to attack other buildings, similar to a game like Age of Mythology. So I'll probably circle back to this one later, although I must admit, most of these other results are even further from what I'd call a tower defense game, because like this War Trains game consists of trains driving on a closed circuit and fighting bosses, and most of these other ones look to be FPS or adventure games. I mean, can you even call this one a game? It just looks like a slideshow. But eventually, I did see this one that's called Power of Defense, which I mean, sounds like tower defense, and I'm not gonna lie, this game description was not helping me very much, but then I found a review that did, which explains that this is actually more of a Tower Wars game where you send robots at a computer enemy that is doing the same to you, and having a robot make it all the way across is what actually earns you a point. Basically, this is still not a tower defense game, and just as I was losing hope, I found this little gem right here called Queen of Tower Defense, and you might notice that it already seems to be in my library. Unfortunately, I had recorded footage of me initially downloading the game, but forgot to put that in a separate folder when I had to delete the 100 hours of raw footage that went into making a previous video, so I'll share with you what my initial thoughts were upon finding it. At first, I wasn't even sure it was a real game when I was seeing these first few slides, but eventually I did see a few screenshots that looked more promising, although I definitely found it weird that when I went to buy the game, it has a totally different name down here. But for 99 cents, I just couldn't pass this up, even if I did get totally scammed. I mean, surely they wouldn't allow a virus to be on Steam, right? Well, here's what it looks like when you open up the game. It looks promising, you can say. But for some reason, you also have to click this button twice to actually get into the game, and then you get this awesome background right here. I guess this chick's angry because she got stuck in such a game. I don't really know, but what I can tell you is that unlike what one of these reviews said here on Steam, the game does not immediately crash when you go to play it, and in fact, you can actually see here there's an option for stages. You got 2 of them right now. I think they're planning to add more in the future. Each one has 6 different levels, and you'll notice that when I played before, I actually got 3 stars on the first 2 levels, which I think you just do by not losing any lives on them. I'm not entirely sure because this game doesn't really have any sort of instructions or tutorial or even like descriptions for that matter. You can see here when you click on a level, enemies just start immediately coming at you, and then you get all these different heroes, but it's not like any of them tell you what they're doing even if you try to click on them. You just have to click on one of these dots and place one down and hope it's a good one, which I say because this game's also unfortunately a little unbalanced. Like, let me put down this one right here. It's like a flamethrower, I guess, basically. And one thing you'll notice about this game is it's always 10 coins to level them up, even all the way to level 9. So it's usually just worth doing that instead of investing in a bunch of heroes. But with that being said, let me get it up to level 9 here just to show you I'm not crazy. Like, you can see here, this hero is not doing the greatest job even at level 9 of taking down these enemies because it has a long cooldown and a lot of them are going to slip through. Obviously I did put it down kind of late, so it's not the fairest test, But like, look at that right there. Even at level 9, you can see that the flamethrower is not strong enough to take down these units, which are the weakest ones of the round, keep in mind, because they're going to get progressively stronger. And just to show you guys like how unbalanced the game can be, check out this hero that does an insane amount of damage per attack and is perfectly designed, especially on this loop, to catch everything that passes by it. And yeah, I understand like the flamethrower was attacking a lot more units at once, but it just did not inflict enough damage on them to make it worthwhile. And I think that's a big problem with a game like this, where you don't have a reason to use certain towers. The strategy is going to end up becoming extremely stale. Also, I don't know why one of these heroes is literally called AI. I don't know if they forgot to change the name of it. That one is also super good for some reason as well, though. And I guess maybe that's just one more thing that AI is supposed to be better at than, I don't even know if you can call these other heroes humans, honestly. I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. Maybe I'm just ignorant, but I definitely don't recognize whatever series they're from. But here you can see what I'm talking about. These two towers work extremely well together, and again, there's just not really much reason to go for anything else. Obviously, you will start building up other stuff because you're going to get more coins and afford to do so, but like the other towers are not really that worth exploring with. There's nothing to unlock because you already have max levels for everything. And you can also see here just how quickly that the enemies went from being insanely easy to defeat to now being basically impossible. It seems like even the two towers that I said were kind of broken are doing nowhere near enough damage to actually stop them. So I would say that's also kind of an issue just because this is only the third stage and the balancing feels very off. And you might notice all of a sudden my taskbar has appeared out of nowhere, and that's because the game doesn't really seem to have like a forced full screen. I don't know how it was working out before, but now it just won't disappear when I went to go record footage for this part. But with that being said, the last thing I wanted to mention is that it definitely seems like a lot of the higher tier upgrades don't really work. Like I'll show you with the AI here really quick, for example, or I guess the AI hero, I don't really know. Aren't they all AI? But in any case, with this you can see like as I level it up, the speed of attack actually seems to work, and it does gain more damage per attack as I'm leveling up, even between levels, like even between the major levels I should say. But once you get up to level 8, it kind of seems to get maxed out because when I go to level 9, the missile rain doesn't really appear to actually do anything. So I feel like there's a lot of unfinished things, or maybe I'm just missing something here. But with that being said, do I think this deserves such harsh reviews on Steam? I mean, honestly, probably not. Like, it's literally the lowest rated true tower defense game on the entire platform, I think. I mean, it is a game, you know, like, I don't know if I agree with the people calling it a scam. Maybe we need to be positive like this guy who said that, it's a fun game, but there's no guns to kill people. I don't even know if he was playing the same game. But I was planning to leave a review myself. However, I just, in good conscience, cannot really give this game a positive review. However, at the same time, I certainly don't want to dogpile until the negative reviews either. I would feel really bad doing so. And this is kind of where I wish Steam had like a neutral option or something, but unfortunately they don't, so I'm just going to move on. But I do want to look up something really quick because I'm pretty sure this is just the Unity template that you can actually get for free for tower defense games. You can see here this is definitely extremely similar with the map, although I would argue that some of these screenshots on the template maybe look a little bit better. I feel kind of mean saying that, but like look at this here. You got the attack cannon, and it actually has some basic information like damage per second and a basic description. There looks to be like more options for upgrades and stuff too. So I do think they just kind of took the bare bones of that template, maybe put some other assets in there, and then, you know, kind of just made a game from that. So I can definitely see where the bad reviews came from, but I'm going to move on. And again, I wouldn't give it a negative review personally. I just would say I kind of just feel indifferent about it. And once again, I had to do a bit of scrolling to actually find our next tower defense game with this one right here, Gem Tower Defense 2. And I'm pretty sure this is actually a modern remake of the classic Flash game. But the interesting thing is that this game only has 10 reviews total, but the first one that appears is actually pretty positive, coming from someone who had 17 hours at the time and went on to play for over 40 hours in total in this game. But this review was made like 2 years ago now, and you'll notice that the other positive review was also made closer to when this game came out, with one person even noting that they were confused by the positive reviews because according to them, half the towers don't even work and it's overall not very functional, which seems to be a sentiment someone else shared in a more recent review as well. So let's see what the truth actually is here. And apparently you only need a single gigabyte of RAM to run this game as well, which is honestly pretty crazy to me, especially considering that Queen of Tower Defense said it requires a minimum of 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is literally what my laptop has, so I don't really even understand that. But at first I was having the same issue with the taskbar, so I actually had to go and change the configuration settings, which thankfully this game actually allows you to do. The last game didn't didn't really have anything like that at all. And I am really sorry about the frame rate as well. I don't know exactly why this is the case, but I've tried to optimize everything with OBS and set up the encoder properly, and this seems to be about the best I can get things. With other screen recorders, games look almost unwatchable, but it's not as if it looks like this when I'm playing the game. It's just OBS itself is having trouble. Maybe it's because I have an integrated graphics card. That's all I can really think, because I don't have the same options that other people do when I follow the tutorials. But Gem Tower Defense 2 definitely has a little bit more to offer than the last game did. You can see here there's actually an incentive to play each day because you can collect diamonds for checking in. Then you can also get them from some other things like when you pass 10 rounds. So yeah, there's actually a whole system where once you earn these diamonds and collect enough of them, you can unlock all sorts of different things in the store. I'm not exactly sure how they work. You can tell this game was definitely translated over to English, which obviously doesn't bother me, but sometimes it makes certain descriptions a little bit harder for me to understand. And you can see everything in the store is currently unlocked as opposed to just being locked. And for some reason, this is the fastest that I can scroll through the options. Like, there's no scroll bar on the side and you just have to use your mouse to do it, but it does not go any faster no matter how quickly I drag it. Which you can see there are a ton of different things to buy in here, so that definitely gives the game a lot more replay value, especially if the actual gameplay itself is going to be fun. And I also found out that I am currently diamond deficient, which definitely sounds like something that would also be said to me in real life as well. But yeah, I'm not very close to affording anything, so let's get into the actual gameplay now. Alright, yeah, give me the tutorial, because honestly I never played the Flash game. Okay, I don't really know what this means, single finger move or double finger or wheel zoom. Yeah, I don't really know what to do with that. I'm just going to kind of go on from here, but let's see. So I guess this is going to be the path that the enemies go down, and what I have to do is place down gems. They're not called towers, I mean, hence the name Gem Tower Defense 2, and then that blue should be where I can actually place them at. I'm not really sure kind of like how this game works exactly yet. I'm a little bit confused, but let's see. So you get to start down placing 5 towers, it looks like. Or again, gems, which is definitely pretty cool, but also I didn't even lose any coins for that. Oh, okay. Oh, wait, okay, so the way this game works, I see now, is you get to choose which tower you keep, and then the other 4 become obstructions. Because I know this game is supposed to be much more of like an open world style tower defense, where you get to control the path that the enemies follow. So you see, okay, like they're going down that path that was originally shown, and I guess I can influence it as I place different gems down on different pieces of it. This definitely is different than any tower defense game I've played before, I can certainly say that much. I mean, I've played one other game that was with an open world style, which I've actually made a video about in the past, but in this game you have to specifically build 5 new gems and then choose which one you want to keep in order to actually get the next round to start, and you have like infinite time between the rounds to do whatever you want, which includes actually improving the quality of the gems that you get, and this is something that actually does cost coins. And I'm not exactly sure yet what that's going to do, but I am playing the tutorial, so this is what the game told me I had to do. And then I was back to placing down more gems and continuing to expand the path that the enemies have to travel down. And they were getting defeated pretty easily here at first, but I have to admit, I'm not exactly sure how much difference there is between each tower. But from what I can tell, it's actually a luck-based system, and sometimes you'll get a tower that's a higher level than the other ones. Here you can see the game telling me to specifically keep the E3 synthesizable jade, and the reason why is because after defeating the next wave of enemies, I actually now get the option to synthesize that jade into Chinese jade for 100 coins, and I guess you have to really know like which towers to pick, because since the gems themselves are free, I'm imagining that the only way to get into the later stages of the game is to actually buy the correct gems that then can be synthesized or upgraded in some other ways, because from what I can tell at least, not every single gem has that option. I'm not exactly sure how the game works yet though, quite clearly, so you guys can feel free to roast me in the comments, because I do know the Flash version is quite nostalgic for some people. And if you didn't notice, I had officially completed the tutorial at this point, so now I'm on my own, and eventually, after building a bunch of more gems up, I actually went down here and upgraded the quality to the max level as well, because I had a ton of extra coins, and from what I could tell, this seemed to make it so that the gems I was spawning in now were having a much higher level on average, and I'm guessing that the level that a gem spawns with is different than what the gem actually gets in terms of when you evolve it and everything. I'm also not sure if like the jade is a rare gem you get and other ones are more common. Again, I really don't know very much quite clearly, but eventually, after pushing further and further, I did start encountering some really tough enemies, and ultimately I did suffer defeat, which was, I guess, inevitable. But from what I can tell, there's not really options for different maps or anything, which I guess makes sense because you kind of create your own map but apparently I had also been playing on the easier mode as well, which definitely makes me feel worse about myself than I already did. I mean, I got smoked there pretty badly, but at least I did earn a couple achievements for getting past 10 and 20 waves, and I definitely wanted to see if I could get any further. But I mean, yeah, I can't really say that this deserves to be the worst rated tower defense game, or at least one of them here on Steam. I mean, I can definitely understand a lot of people who played this for free way back in the day and then got a more janky version of it, feeling kind of like, well, I just paid $3 to try to play a game I really enjoyed, and getting kind of disappointed when it didn't work out that way. But at the same time, like, it is a genuinely solid game, I would say, overall. There's a decent amount of nuance to it, a little bit more depth than the last game. I do really wish that when you place down gems, you could actually see how the path was going to be affected before having to place it, because sometimes, like, I'm trying to make the path more convoluted, and then it ends up just jumping to a spot where my gems aren't even at, and then I end up just, like, making it more direct of a path for the enemies to follow. So, like, sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to set things up in that way, but I think that the whole aspect of having an open world tower defense game is always a really cool thing, something that I really enjoy, and I think this review puts it best, where this person describes how they're having a lot of fun with the game, learning a little bit from each run about the different gems and combinations, because ultimately it shows that this game actually has some replayability to it. It's a simple game, a pretty simple concept, but there's actual depth, and I can really see myself wanting to come back to this game to try to figure out how to get further. Although with this run, I really did not make much more progress from the last, but like that guy said, I was more so just kind of learning new things and trying different stuff out and experimenting with it. And as far as the reviews go, talking about how certain towers don't work, I did notice that there's times where certain towers definitely don't seem to be attacking when they should, when something's passing by it. And I don't know if it's because stuff has to be evolved or you have to do something else, but I can understand the frustration because it doesn't really seem to be explained clearly anywhere, even when you're doing the tutorial. But honestly, I feel comfortable enough to leave this game a positive review. And I'm not going to lie and say it's the best tower defense I've ever played, or that there aren't even ones out there that are free that could be better as Flash games like the original version of this game, but at the same time, as far as games go on Steam, and as far as especially tower defense goes, it's not the worst experience I've had, and for $3, I definitely didn't hate it. So yeah, I mean, you can pause to read the full review if you want, but now we're moving on to the final game of the video, which is something called Medieval Defenders. And you can see this game actually has over 100 reviews, which is a lot for these games. But also, if we go and look at them, you can see a couple people back in 2016 received this game for free when it first came out, and what I'm guessing is that it originally was released as a free game, but the big complaint is that the game is simply pay to win, and not even just pay to win, but like pay to progress to the point where you have to start spending money to get past the first 5 levels. So I'm not sure if that's going to change now, because there's a hefty $15 price tag on this game. But I did find more modern reviews that still complain about it being pay to win, so let's see if I buy this game for 15 bucks. Will those elements still be there? Like, am I still going to be expected to pay $5 or whatever it was just to get past the first 5 levels? I guess we're going to find out. Well, this game actually lets you create your own profile, which is really cool, honestly. And this display really reminds me of an older video game, and honestly, that's a point in this game's favor more than anything else. But now that I'm logged in as Phenomics, let's get started here. You can see we only got a couple basic options, but I really do like how the full screen in this game actually works and doesn't make my taskbar appear at the bottom. And there also looks to be a good bit of content in this game as well, because this is just the first campaign right here, which I have to earn enough stars on to unlock the second campaign, but just in this one alone you can see there's quite a bit of levels. But I do also see my first element of pay to win here, where apparently you can unlock every level, I guess, in this campaign for $99. Yeah, I think I'll be passing on that one, but also it looked like right there I had 5 tries, I guess, to get past this level, because you can see there, like, I went from 5 to 4 and it had a shield icon, so I'm thinking that means that basically once you run out of tries, you either have to pay to keep on playing or you have to wait. And that's probably what people were complaining about. In fact, I'm certain that must be it. But I do like how the intro is a lot more comprehensive on this game than the last two have been. I mean, you actually get a basic description of the first tower and unit that you're being introduced to. And then beyond that, the game also kind of tells you what to do from there and shows you basically how to play the game, at least on a simple level. And on the first level, you're only fighting one unit that's really weak, so I had no problem clearing that. And then I was introduced to this system of elixir that actually allows you to buy buffs for the starting stats of your cannon tower, And there's also general upgrades that you can get, like the amount of gold that you start with and how many lives you start with as well. But for now, I just worried about buying each level 1 upgrade for the cannon and moved on from there. And it looks like I actually got my try back, which is cool as well at least. I don't know if that's because I got 3 stars or just for beating it, but as you can see, I also unlocked a second tower, but in exchange I'm going to have to fight a new unit as well here. And it carries the same speed as the first one I was fighting, which are called peasants, but the horsemen also have more health as well. I would think a horseman would be faster, maybe have the same health, but in any case, that does go to show that this game actually has a proper system of progression. And then here you can see they wanted me to spend the 1 elixir to actually unlock this special post, which does make the cannon on top of it a lot stronger than it would normally be. I don't really think I want to do that in the future if I can avoid it, because I feel like the elixir is better spent on upgrading your towers, but you know, it's another cool feature of the game, a little bit more depth added to it. Obviously at the end of the day, they're trying to set you up to want to buy elixir eventually. I do understand that, but this is also only the 2nd level, so let's make a little bit more progress and see if I get stumped up like the one review was saying. I did actually lose a couple lives at the end of the 2nd round here, but it's only because I was AFK and didn't think to pause the game while I was gone, but still, no problem getting through that. And it looks like I was given my try back as well despite not getting 3 stars, so that's pretty cool at least. And on the 3rd level I was introduced to my first spell, which actually allows you to drop falling rocks onto your enemies, and I was surprised that apparently it actually doesn't cost elixir, but instead just functions on a basic cooldown system. I figured it was going to be one of those things where you had to spend money in order to actually get to use it, and I really hate to admit it, but so far this has been probably the best experience I've had during this video, and for $15 it better be. And trust me, I'm not even saying this game is worth that much at all, but like still, the game is actually very functional. It looks nice. You can see the footage actually recorded properly for once, which is nice, and maybe it's because it's a mobile port that was designed for phones, which obviously would have a lot less power than laptops do, but still, I mean, like, I was definitely pleasantly surprised up to this point. Now, the 4th level introduced me to the gold mine, which obviously can mine gold for you instead of attacking units, and I really do like how the level starts you off with 0 gold, but 2 of the gold mines down, so at least you can actually get an idea of how they function. It also introduces you to a new enemy that moves really slowly, so you'll have enough time to farm. But this is also where something really funny happened, where I accidentally went to buy a tower that I couldn't afford yet, and then the game wanted me to spend 2 elixir in order to get it down, but I didn't want to do that, of course, and when I tried to hit cancel, the game ended up crashing, so I guess they don't like it when you do that. I think it's actually because the game was paused though while this happened, and that's probably why that was the case, but it was definitely funny to me. But what isn't so funny is that it actually cost me one of my tries, so I guess don't try to do things while the game is paused, which should be obvious. But with that being said, I had no problem clearing this level, and after doing so, I got introduced to the catapult, which I have to admit, I would not have bought if it was not already placed for me in the center of the level, because once this thing started firing, I got to see not only does it have an incredibly huge range, but this thing does an insane amount of damage per shot because it's hitting so many units at once, and I'd have to imagine that this is a really powerful tower for the later game, especially as the units start to get stronger and more grouped up than they are currently. Although the game actually throws you a counter to that right after, because this healer unit can actually heal the enemies that are nearby it, and in doing so, since the catapult fires so slowly, they'll actually keep on rehealing them and basically negate the damage that it does, whereas something like a cannon that does single target damage can actually take down the passing by units quickly enough. And I actually ended up losing to the 6th wave because of these guys, so I was really getting worried here because I'm thinking, okay, is this the choke point that everyone was talking about? Is this going to take all my tries and I just won't be able to get further without spending money? Well, thankfully not, because this time around I actually placed my towers a little bit better and was able to actually ultimately get through the level, although it certainly was far from a flawless victory. Then I actually unlocked a new level that I could upgrade my cannon to, which was definitely cool because I tend to spam this tower down a lot. It's really cheap and overall does a good amount of damage per second for its price, but with that 3rd level now I have an expensive upgrade I can get for it as well when I get into the later game. And again, I'm really surprised by how much I'm actually enjoying this game right now. I definitely was expecting to hate it when I first came into it, and honestly thought this would be the only game I gave a negative review to, but I mean, with like basically each level so far, I'm along with unlocking a new enemy that can do something unique, which keeps you on your toes without overwhelming you with everything at once. Like the other games, I felt like I didn't really have an idea of what each enemy was going to do necessarily, but here, I mean, so far, things have been so good. And you can see here, I actually had no idea how to beat this guy because he not only spawns units through a portal, but also disables towers that he's nearby, so the cannon start definitely did not work out this time, and I realized what I actually had to do was get a catapult in this case, because that actually has enough range to attack the guy that spawns units in before it can disable it, and then we can actually get started from there and earn enough gold to really get some progress. But like, all of these different things force you to use each tower in the game, or at least the cannons and the catapults. I haven't really found a use for the other one, but still, I mean, this actually has some real depth to it, and it's an actual game. And all in all, I was able to play for an hour without ever really being at risk of running out of tries. As you guys saw, the few times where I did lose, I was able to figure out what happened after a single try and then keep on going on from there. Now, with that being said though, it is obviously pretty unforgivable that this game costs $15 and still tries to limit your progress. Like, that is absolutely insane. And I imagine if this was your first tower defense game and you were not having really the best time with it, or you're just having some trouble getting through, and then all of a sudden realize, wait a minute, I'm not allowed to play again for 30 more minutes? That is obviously not fair at all. I mean, that would be bad for a free mobile game, but for a $15 Steam game, it is unforgivable. I'm not going to leave a bad review just because I just am not that guy, but I will definitely be honest and say I don't think that that's in any way a fair business model or something that they should do. And if they took that stuff out of the game, I think this actually would seriously be a pretty good tower defense game. A little overpriced, but put this at $5, take away the pay to win, and I think you have a game with 80% positive feedback, honestly. But there you have it. Those have been 3 of the lowest rated true tower defense games on Steam. And if you haven't really watched my videos before and this is somehow the first time you found me, maybe the algorithm worked out, I really would suggest checking out the video on screen because I promise you will enjoy it. But thank you to everybody who's been here so far for the journey. Let's see if we can get to 20k subs.